The lawyer cleared his throat, the sound echoing in the ridiculously large mahogany-walled office. "And finally," he said, pushing a final, slender document across the desk, "your father, Mr. Robertson, left you his controlling interest in Innovate Solutions, effective immediately. You are, Miss Hayes, for all intents and purposes, the new owner." My name is Annalise Hayes, and I had just inherited a multi-million-dollar tech company from a man I hadn't spoken to in a decade. I stared at the paper. Innovate Solutions. I knew the name, of course. It was a golden name in the tech world, a leader in B2B logistics software. But to me, it was just the thing that had taken my father away, the thing he had chosen over his own family. My mother and I had kept her maiden name, Hayes, and built our own life, far from his corporate shadow. "Miss Hayes?" the lawyer asked, his tone laced with gentle impatience. I picked up the pen. "What's the catch?" He smiled, a thin, dry smile. "The catch is that the company is immensely profitable, but," he leaned forward, lowering his voice, "it is also, according to this separate report from the Ombudsman, a deeply unhappy place." He handed me a simple, bound file, not glossy, like the financial reports. This one was plain. I opened it. It was filled with anonymous employee testimonials from the past year. A golden cage. Management leads. My stomach tightened. My father had built a profitable prison. The lawyer, Mr. Davies, watched me. "Your father's board, the C-suite, they are unaware of your inheritance. They assume control will pass to a trust, managed by the firm. They are expecting a call from me. They are not expecting you." A cold, sharp idea began to form in my mind. A company that profitable, yet that toxic, wasn't just suffering from low morale, it was suffering from a cancer. And you don't ask the cancer to heal itself. "Mr. Davies," I said, my voice finding a resolve I didn't know I possessed. "My last name is Hayes. My father's was Robertson. No one at that company knows my face. They don't know who I am." He saw it instantly. "Ms. Hayes, you can't be serious." "I am," I said. "I want to see the rot for myself. Get me a job there, a low-level one. Marketing, analysis, something that lets me see the inside." "That would be highly irregular." "Irregular is what I do. I'm not taking over my father's company. I'm taking it back. Call the board. Tell them the new owner has appointed an interim transition director who will be observing operations, but that the owner herself wishes to remain anonymous for now. That'll keep them busy. Then you're going to hire me." 2 weeks later, I was Anna Smith. I traded my blazers for cheap blouses from a discount store, my sharp designer frames for a pair of plain wire-rimmed glasses. I pulled my hair back into the most severe, uninspired bun I could manage. Anna Smith was bland, forgettable, and, according to my new employee file, a recent graduate with a decent but not dazzling resume, hired as a junior marketing assistant. The Innovate Solutions building was a monument of glass and steel, but inside, the silence was deafening. It was a perfect gray, open-plan office, and the only sound was the sterile click-clack of keyboards. No one spoke, no one laughed. I was led to a cubicle in the back corner. "You'll be reporting to Karen, the HR rep said, her voice a monotone. "She's the senior marketing manager. She'll be with you shortly." I sat down. The chair was new, expensive, but stiff. I booted up the computer and waited. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Finally, a woman with a severe blonde bob, immaculate makeup, and a look of profound irritation stormed over. She didn't look at me. She was looking at a file in her hand. My file. "Anna Smith," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, that's me. It's so great to meet—" "Right." She tossed the file onto my desk. "Let's get one thing straight. I didn't approve your hire. HR dumped you on me because my team has the highest turnover, and they think another body will fix the morale problem. The problem isn't morale, it's incompetence." She finally looked at me, her eyes raking over my cheap blouse. "You're here to do what I say, when I say it. Your job is to make my job easier. Don't ask stupid questions, don't miss deadlines, and don't, under any circumstances, waste my time. Are we clear?" I just nodded, my mouth suddenly dry. "Yes, Karen. Crystal clear." "Good." A cruel little smirk. "Now, go get me a coffee. Black, venti. The Starbucks line is usually 10 minutes long, so account for that in your morning schedule. My 9 a.m. meeting starts in 5 minutes. Go." I spent my first day getting coffee, sorting spreadsheets that were clearly from 2018, and watching. Karen, I realized, was the sun in her own toxic solar system. The entire team of 12 people orbited her, trapped by her gravitational pull of fear. She would stalk the aisles, her heels clicking, and stand behind someone just watching them type. The tension was so thick I could barely breathe. This wasn't a job. It was a hostage situation. The next few weeks were a masterclass in subtle cruelty. My job as a marketing assistant was in fact the job of a servant. I ran her errands, picked up her dry cleaning, and was tasked with compiling mind-numbing data entry reports. But I'm not an idiot. I knew marketing. I had a degree in it, a good one, not the one I'd fabricated for Anna Smith. I saw the reports Karen was sending up to the COO, Mark Jennings. They were fine. They were uninspired. They were metrics without meaning. In my third week, there was a team meeting about a new campaign for a struggling software vertical. The room was silent as Karen clicked through a boring PowerPoint. "We need fresh eyes," she said, her voice dripping with boredom. "Does anyone have an idea that isn't terrible?" Silence. Everyone stared at the table. I felt a small spark. I'd been thinking about this. I raised my hand, just slightly. Karen's eyes narrowed. "What is it, Anna?" "Well," I said, my voice timid. "I was looking at the client feedback for this vertical. They're not using the B2B portal because it feels outdated. But our B2C clients love our social media integration. What if we created a social style interface for the B2B portal? Make it interactive with project-based chat feeds instead of static email chains. It would modernize the feel and boost engagement." The room was silent. A few people looked up, interested. I saw Tom, a developer who was always pale and anxious, nod almost imperceptibly. Karen stared at me. She didn't move for a full 5 seconds. Then she let out a short, sharp laugh. It was the ugliest sound I had ever heard. "A social style interface," she repeated as if I'd suggested building it out of macaroni. "That is adorable. That is exactly what we tried in 2015. It was a disaster. Try to keep up with the company's history before you speak, Anna." My face burned. I sank back into my chair, the heat of humiliation crawling up my neck. I I'm sorry, I didn't see it in the archives. Obviously, she sneered and clicked to the next slide. The meeting ended. I fled to the break room, my hands shaking. Tom, the anxious developer, was there, his back to me, fumbling with the coffee machine. You shouldn't have done that, he muttered, not turning around. What? Speak? Yeah. He turned. He looked exhausted. It was a good idea. A really good idea. Which is why you should have kept it quiet. I don't understand. You will, he said. He grabbed his coffee. Just watch. And don't say I didn't warn you. 2 weeks later, I understood. An all-hands email went out from the COO, Mark Jennings, announcing a brilliant new strategic pivot for our B2B vertical, spearheaded by our own Karen Reynolds, the Innovate Connect interface, a dynamic social media-style project hub to revolutionize client engagement. My blood ran ice cold. She hadn't just dismissed my idea, she had waited. She had polished it just enough to call it her own. And then she had presented it directly to the COO. I walked to her desk, the email pulsating on my phone. Karen? She looked up, a triumphant gleam in her eye. Yes, Anna? This Innovate Connect idea, it sounds familiar. She gave me a sickeningly sweet smile. It should. It was based on that terrible idea you had. See? I'm a good manager. I can find the one tiny kernel of a good thought inside a mountain of bad ones. I sculpted your little lump of clay into a work of art. You should be grateful. You're learning. I just stood there, speechless. There was no one to appeal to. I looked over at the HR department, visible through a glass wall. Maria, the coordinator who had hired me, was sitting there, looking as terrified as everyone else. I later cornered Maria in the elevator. Does this happen often? I asked, my voice low. Karen stealing ideas? Maria flinched. She stared at the floor. Please, I can't. Maria, that was my idea. I know it. You know it. Does she did away with this? The elevator doors opened. Maria looked at me, her eyes wet with unshed tears. Karen is protected. She and the COO, Mark Jennings, they're old friends. As long as her team's numbers look good on paper, he doesn't care how she gets them or who she crushes. Just keep your head down. We all do. But I couldn't keep my head down because I wasn't just Anna Smith. I was Annalise Hayes, and this was my company. The true breaking point came a month later. It was the end of the quarter. A massive client report was due. This one was worth 30% of our quarterly revenue. The pressure was immense. Karen was vibrating with stress, which meant she was twice as cruel as usual. She stalked the office, yelling at people for typing too loudly. At 4 p.m. on a Friday, with the report due Monday at 9 a.m., she dropped a USB drive on my desk. This is the final client data from analytics, she said, her voice clipped. Your job is to integrate it into the final report. The master file is on the shared drive. Do not mess this up, Anna. My bonus and your job depends on it. The whole report? I said, my voice squeaking. By Monday? Don't be dramatic. It's just data integration. It shouldn't take you more than a few hours if you're even remotely competent. She grabbed her purse. I have a spa weekend. I'll be in at 8:45 a.m. on Monday to review it before we send it to the client. Don't call me. And she left. I sat there, my heart hammering. The office emptied out. It was just me and the silent, humming computers. I plugged in the USB. I opened the master file. And I started to work. By 9 p.m., I was in a cold sweat. It didn't make sense. The analytics data from the USB was garbage. It didn't align with any of the previous month's data. The numbers were skewed, the columns were mislabeled. It was completely unusable. It wasn't just wrong, it was spectacularly wrong. I tried calling Karen. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I told you not to call me. I emailed her. No response. I was being set up. She hadn't just given me a difficult task. She had given me an impossible one. She had given me the wrong files on purpose. When the report failed on Monday, she wouldn't blame the data. She would blame the incompetent junior who couldn't even do a simple integration. She would blame Anna Smith, me. I stared at the screen, my vision blurring with fury and panic. This wasn't just about my fake job. This was a massive client. This sabotage would not just get me fired, it would damage the company, my company. I packed my bag. I ran out of the office, took the elevator down to the garage, got in my very modest Anna Smith car, and drove home to my apartment. The apartment Anna Smith could never afford. I sat at my real desk. I opened my personal laptop, the one Mr. Davies, the lawyer, had given me. The one with a secure back-end connection to the Innovate Solutions servers. The one with owner-level clearance. Okay, Karen, I whispered to the empty room. Let's find the real files. It took me an hour of searching the executive archives, but I found it. The actual analytics report. It had been sent to Karen by the analytics department on Thursday. It was clean, perfect, and completely different from the file on the USB drive. I downloaded it, and I got to work. I didn't sleep. I drank an entire pot of coffee. I tore down the corrupted report and rebuilt it from scratch. I cross-referenced the new data. I updated the charts. I rewrote the executive summary. I did the work of a senior analyst, a director, and a data scientist all in one. I did the work Karen was supposed to do. At 5:03 a.m. on Monday morning, I saved the final perfect 80-page report. I logged into my Anna Smith email account. I attached the file and I sent it to Karen. Hi, Karen. I had some trouble with the file you gave me. The data seemed corrupted, but I managed to find a different file version on the shared drive that looked correct, and I've completed the integration. Please see attached. Hope this is what you were looking for. Best, Anna. Then I took a shower, put on my Anna Smith uniform, and drove back to the office, arriving at 8:30 a.m. At 8:45 a.m., Karen stormed in, her face pale. She clearly hadn't checked her email. She marched straight to my desk. "Where is it?" she demanded. I emailed it to you, Karen, at 5 a.m. Her eyes widened. She sprinted to her desk, her heels clicking frantically. I watched her mouse click, click, click. I watched her open the file. I watched her face go from panic to confusion to pure, unadulterated fury. She hadn't expected me to fix it. She had expected me to fail. She slowly walked over to my desk. She was shaking. "How?" she whispered, her voice dangerously low. How did you do this?
I widened my eyes, playing dumb. I just I just did what you said. I found the data and put it in. Was it wrong? Where did you get this data? From the shared drive. I lied smoothly. It was in a subfolder. I just looked for it. I'm sorry if I overstepped. She stared at me, her mind racing, trying to find the flaw in my story. She couldn't. She straightened up, composing herself. Right. Well, it seems you didn't completely destroy it. Good. She walked away. 10 minutes later, in the 9 a.m. leadership meeting, I heard her voice from the conference room. It was a team effort, Mark. The junior employee I'm training completely botched the data. I had to pull an all-nighter myself to fix her mess. But as I always do, I got it done. I had saved her, and she buried me anyway. That was the moment the game changed. This was no longer an investigation. This was a war. The next day, as Anna Smith, I sat at my desk. As Annalise Hayes, I made a phone call. Mr. Davies, I said, speaking into my phone on my lunch break, it's time. I want you to hire an external audit firm, the most aggressive one you can find. I want them to start a full company-wide culture and performance review immediately. Send the email out today from your office. Announced it as a directive from the new anonymous owner. Annalise, he said, that will light a fire. Good, I replied. I want to see what scatters. The email landed at 2 p.m. By order of the new chairwoman, Innovate Solutions will be undergoing a mandatory third-party audit of all departments, managers, and performance metrics effective immediately. All employees will be required to participate in confidential interviews. The office exploded. The silence was shattered. People were whispering, gathering in corners. Karen locked herself in her office for an hour. When she emerged, she looked like she had seen a ghost. Her paranoia, already high, went into overdrive. She was convinced someone on her team was the whistleblower who had triggered the audit. And her eyes landed on me, the quiet new girl, the one who had, magically, fixed the report. Her bullying became desperate, frantic. It was no longer subtle, it was overt. Anna, my coffee is cold, get another. Anna, you misspelled a word in this internal memo. Are you illiterate? Anna, why are you talking to Tom? Are you trying to waste his time too? She was trying to break me. She was trying to make me quit before the auditors got to me. But I held firm. I just nodded. I took notes. I wrote down every word, every time, every incident. Then came the final, fatal move. It was a Thursday afternoon. Karen called me to her desk, her face a mask of fake, high-stress panic. Anna, oh my God, this is a disaster, she whispered, pulling me close. Our biggest client, A-Tech. They're on the phone with legal right now. They're claiming we underbilled them and they're threatening a lawsuit. My blood ran cold. This was real. They need their salary data, she said, her voice dropping. All the data from their account. I need you to go into the confidential compliance folder, folder 7B on the executive drive, and pull their salary ledger right now. Email it to me. I froze. I knew our compliance training. Folder 7B was the most secure folder on the server. Accessing it without explicit, written, multi-part authorization from legal and the client was a massive violation. It was grounds for immediate termination. It could even be illegal. It was a trap. She saw me hesitate. What? Did you hear me? Go. Karen, I said, my voice shaking, this time for real. I, I can't. That's a compliance violation. We aren't allowed in that folder without a legal signatory. Her face went dark. The fake panic vanished, replaced by a triumphant, icy calm. I am your manager. I am giving you a direct order during a client emergency. Are you refusing that order, Anna? This was it. The final move. If I said yes, I'd be fired and possibly prosecuted for the violation. If I said no, I'd be fired for insubordination. She had me. She thought. I, I am refusing, Karen, I said, my voice small. I'm not comfortable violating company policy. Her smile was terrifying. That's all I needed to hear. She grabbed my arm. Her nails dug into my skin. You're coming with me. She physically dragged me from my chair, across the office, and into the HR department, straight to Maria's desk. The few people left in the office stared, wide-eyed. Maria, Karen snapped, throwing me into the chair. Get the paperwork. I'm firing her. Maria looked up, her face pale. What? Karen, what happened? Insubordination, Karen yelled. I gave her a direct order during a client emergency, and she refused. She is a liability to this entire company. I want her gone, today, now. Maria looked at me, her eyes pleading. Anna, is that true? I was asked to violate compliance protocol, I whispered. See? Karen slammed her hands on the desk. She admits it. She's useless. Give me the termination form. I want her out of this building in 10 minutes. Maria, shaking, unlocked a drawer and pulled out a form. Her hands trembled as she placed it on the desk. Sign this, Anna, Karen sneered, pushing the form toward me. It was a voluntary resignation. Sign it or I'll make sure you never work in this city again. I looked at the form. I looked at Maria's terrified face. I looked at Karen's triumphant, cruel expression. And then there was a knock on the door. Come in, Karen barked, not looking up. The door opened. In walked Mr. Davies, the head of legal. And right behind him was Mark Jennings, the COO. Karen's head snapped up. Her triumphant look morphed into one of confusion, which then settled on smugness as she saw Mark. Mark, perfect timing, she said, smiling. I was just cleaning house. This asset, she gestured to me, is a bad apple. I'm firing her for gross insubordination. She just refused a direct order during the ATEC emergency. Mark Jennings looked confused. The ATEC emergency? What ATEC emergency? Karen's smile faltered. The one legal is on the phone with? The billing dispute? There is no ATEC dispute, Karen, Mr. Davies said, his voice cold. ATEC is perfectly happy. I just had lunch with their CEO. The blood drained from Karen's face. She stared at Davies, then at Mark, then at me. Mr. Davies, the lawyer, did not look at Karen. He did not look at Mark Jennings. He looked directly at me. Ms. Hayes, he said, his voice respectful, are you ready to proceed? Karen's jaw went slack. Mark Jennings took a half step back. Maria let out a tiny gasp, her hand flying to her mouth. Ms. Hayes, Karen sputtered. What did he call you? What is this? I stood up. Slowly. I reached up and took off the cheap wire-rimmed glasses. I set them on the desk.
I pulled the elastic from my hair, letting it fall to my shoulders. My entire demeanor shifted. The timid, anxious Anna Smith vanished. "My name," I said, my voice no longer timid, but cold, sharp, and echoing with absolute authority, "is Annalise Hayes. I am the new owner and chairwoman of Innovate Solutions, and Anna Smith is officially done." Karen made a sound like a choking bird. Mark Jennings turned the color of ash. But, but, you're, Karen stammered. "I'm what? The junior assistant?" I said. I picked up the termination form. This was a test, Karen. A compliance test. And you failed. "No," she shrieked. Mark, tell them I'm a good manager. Tell them about my numbers." Mark was staring at me, his eyes wide with dawning horror. "Annalise? Hayes? Robertson's daughter?" "He's the one," Maria whispered, her voice full of awe. "Oh, we'll be discussing your protection of Karen very soon, Mark," I said, not taking my eyes off the woman who had tormented me for 3 months. "I want to review your performance," I said to Karen. I pulled a small, worn notebook from my bag, my bullying journal. October 3rd. You publicly humiliated me for an idea, the Innovate Connect idea, which you then stole and presented as your own 2 weeks later. I have the meeting minutes. October 18th. You intentionally sabotaged the quarterly client report by providing me with corrupted data, an act that would have cost this company millions, purely to have a reason to fire me. I have the original USB drive. And I have the server logs showing you downloaded the correct file 2 days prior. I have testimony from Tom, whose ideas you've been stealing for 2 years. I have a report from HR from before I arrived detailing 12 formal complaints against you for verbal abuse, all of which were buried by Mr. Jennings. And finally, I said, my voice dropping to an icy whisper, just now, you attempted to bully me into committing a federal compliance violation. And then, when I refused, you tried to illegally terminate me for insubordination. All of which, I held up my phone, which was on and recording, is documented. Karen collapsed into the chair. She was hyperventilating. No, please, Miss Hayes, Annalise, I didn't know. I didn't know it was you." "That," I said, "is the entire problem. It shouldn't have mattered who I was. You shouldn't have done it to anyone." I looked at Mr. Davies. "Please call security." "No," Karen lunged, grabbing my arm. "Please, I can do better. I'm a good manager. I get results. I can help you. I can—" "Karen," I said, pulling my arm from her grasp, "you are terminated, effective immediately, for gross misconduct, intellectual property theft, attempted corporate sabotage, and creation of a hostile work environment. Security will escort you from the building. Your personal effects will be mailed to you." Security officers appeared at the door. Karen let out a wail as they gently but firmly took her arms and led her away, still babbling about her numbers and how Mark would fix this. When she was gone, the office was silent. Mark Jennings was sweating. "Miss Hayes, Annalise, I had no idea it was this bad. I was just—" "Save it, Mark," I said, exhausted. "You are on administrative leave pending a full investigation into your conduct and growth negligence.
Mr. Davies' team will be in touch. I suggest you find your own lawyer. You're done here, too."
He didn't argue. He just nodded, his arrogance completely gone, and walked out. It was just me and Maria. She was staring at me, her eyes a mixture of terror and relief. "Miss Hayes," she whispered. I'm so sorry. I didn't." "Maria," I said, my voice softening for the first time. "You were in an impossible position, and you are the only one in this entire management chain who has ever looked remotely human." I held out my hand. The company is going to change, and I need good people to help me change it. I'm creating a new department, employee advocacy. It's replacing the old HR. It will have real power to investigate and protect our people. I want you to run it. Interested?" Maria looked at my outstretched hand, and for the first time, she smiled. A real, genuine smile. "Yes," she said, taking it. "Yes, I am." The next morning, I called an all-hands meeting. I stood on the small stage, not as Anna Smith, but as Annalise Hayes, owner and chairwoman. I told them everything: who I was, why I had done it. For 3 months, I was one of you. I saw the fear. I saw the toxicity. I saw incredible ideas being stolen and brilliant people being silenced. That era is over. I announced the firing of Karen and the resignation of Mark Jennings. A quiet, stunned gasp went through the crowd. Then, I announced my new leadership team. "Tom," I said, pointing to the anxious developer in the back, "please come up here. Tom is our new director of R&D with a mandate to build a team that actually listens to new ideas." I announced Maria as the new head of employee advocacy. The applause, at first hesitant, became a deafening roar. It took 6 months to undo the damage. 6 months of rebuilding, rehiring, and restructuring. 6 months of convincing people that it was safe to speak, safe to innovate, safe to trust again. I often walk the office floor now. The silence is gone. It's replaced by laughter, by debate, by the loud, chaotic, beautiful noise of collaboration. Tom is thriving. Maria has become the company's most beloved executive. My father left me a business, a cold engine built for profit. But I like to think I've turned it into something more. I'm no longer an undercover employee. I'm a leader. And my company? My company is finally a community.